The door was slightly opened. Morning on set began like any other. Bright lights hummed above the crew. Makeup artists moved quickly. Assistant directors barked last-minute changes. People were rushing past each other, holding coffee cups and clipboards, trying to meet the tight filming schedule. Everything looked normal, but something was off. Keanu Reeves had been on the set since dawn. He was quiet as always, polite with everyone, and helpful in his usual calm way. He greeted the crew, checked his lines, and stayed out of the spotlight when he wasn't needed. He had a way of moving through chaos without making noise, like he was walking through water. But that morning, just as the cameras were about to roll for the first scene, he noticed something strange. Ana de Armas, his co-star, wasn't on set. Not at the makeup chair, not at breakfast, not in her usual spot near the trailers. Keanu paused. It wasn't like her to be late. She was always professional, always ready. She loved acting, and it showed. Something didn't feel right. He quietly excused himself, walking past the grip trucks and through the narrow path between the trailers. He wasn't trying to make a scene. He just had a feeling. As he reached Dana's trailer, he noticed the door was slightly open. Not wide enough to see anything, but enough to hear something. Soft. Broken. Like someone trying not to cry. He didn't knock. Not at first. He just stood there. Then he heard it clearly in his voice, muffled by tears. She was crying. Keanu gently pushed the door open. Anna sat on the small couch inside her trailer. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her head was down. Her hands trembled slightly. She didn't hear the door open. She didn't see him step inside. Keanu didn't say anything. He simply sat down on the floor in front of her. Not on a chair. Not beside her. Just on the floor. Silent. Grounded. Anna finally looked up, startled. Her eyes were red, her cheeks wet with tears. When she saw Keanu, she quickly wiped her face and sat up straight, trying to pretend nothing was wrong. "I'm fine," she whispered, forcing a smile. "Really?" Keanu didn't nod. He didn't challenge her words. He just looked at her. His eyes were soft, full of quiet concern. Said one thing gently. "You don't have to be." That was when she broke again. Her smile fell apart, and more tears slipped out before she could stop them. She covered her face with her hands and leaned forward, her voice trembling. "I don't know why I feel like this," she whispered. "I woke up this morning, and everything felt heavy. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was strong enough to push through, but just tired." Keanu didn't rush to fix anything. He didn't tell her to be strong. He didn't tee off her cliches. Instead, he just stayed there, still on the floor, still quiet. After a few minutes, he finally spoke. "It's okay to be tired," he said. "Even stars get tired, even the ones who shine the brightest." Anna looked at him. There was something in his voice, something real, not rehearsed, not scripted. "I feel like I'm letting everyone down," she said, her voice cracking. "Like, if I can't hold it together, I'll be replaced, or people will say I'm difficult, or weak, or ungrateful." Keanu shook his head. "You're human," he said softly, "not a machine. People forget that sometimes. Even we forget it." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. He held it out to her. "What's this?" she asked. "A reminder," he said. "It's something someone gave me when I was going through a hard time." Anna opened the paper slowly. Inside was a handwritten note. 5 words. "This too is just weather." Anna stared at it. The words were simple, but they hit her like a wave. She read it again. And again Keanu stood up, but not to leave. He walked over to the small table in the corner, picked up 2 paper cups, and poured water into them. He brought one back to her and sat on the couch beside her. "We don't need to talk about it," he said, handing her the cup, "unless you want to. Either way, I'm here." Anna sipped the water and took a deep breath. He leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered, and they just sat there. No cameras. No scripts. No applause. Just 2 people. One hurting. One holding space. Outside, the assistant director was looking for them. The crew was ready. The lights were set. People were waiting. But inside that trailer, something more important was happening. Keanu didn't rush her, not even when someone knocked on the door. Not even when a voice called, "We're ready for the next scene," quietly responded, "She'll be out soon." And then, when Anna was finally ready, she stood up, wiped her face again, looked at him. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. "I know," he replied. She smiled this time, a real smile. The first one that day, they walked out of the trailer together. No one said anything. People noticed. The lighting guy whispered to the camera assistant Keanu was in there with her. The makeup artist smiled when she saw Anna's face. The director looked relieved but also curious. Something had changed. And that was only the beginning, because what Keanu did that day was only the first of many quiet choices that would slowly bring light back to Anna's life. She smiled in the scene, but not with her hearth cameras rolled. Lights flooded the set. The director called action. Anna stood on her mark, eyes fixed forward, ready for her first scene of the day. Her makeup was perfect, her costume flawless, and her voice steady. She hit every line, every movement, just as the script demanded, to everyone watching. She looked fine, but Keanu saw it. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It wasn't something most people would notice. Anna was a brilliant actress. She could cry on cue, laugh like the sun was in her soul, and break hearts with a single glance. But Keanu had been watching people for a long time, like characters, real people, and he knew the difference between acting and being. He stood in his own position across from her in the scene. The lines were lighthearted. They were supposed to be laughing. Anna laughed on cue. But Keanu in single quotes. Keanu was something off. Keanu looked at Anna. He slowly turned back to the director. "Let's try it again," he said gently. They reset. The scene rolled again. This time, Keanu didn't deliver his next line. Instead, he stepped forward, just slightly out of script, looked directly into Anna's eyes. Then, softly, without breaking the moment, he whispered, "You okay?" The crew didn't hear it. The mics didn't catch it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant for the scene. It was for her. Anna blinked, just once, then gave the tiniest nod. They finished the scene, and something changed. After the director called, "Cut," there was a quiet on set. No one said anything, but the energy had shifted. Anna turned to Keanu as they walked off set. "You knew?" she said. Double quotes. "Yeah," he replied with a half smile. They didn't talk more about it right then. They didn't need to. But the silence between them was no longer heavy. It was gentle. It's like two people walking beside each other through a storm. During lunch, Anna sat alone. Usually she joined the main table with the rest of the cast. But today, she needed space. Keanu walked past, tray in hand. He didn't ask to join her. He just sat across from her without saying a word. Anna looked up. "You always do that?" She asked. "What? Sit with people who don't ask?" Keanu smiled. "Only when they need someone to." Anna shook her head, but she wasn't annoyed. Her lips curved just slightly. She wasn't used to people reading her so clearly. "You're not like other people," she said. Keanu shrugged. "Neither are you." She took a bite of her food and stared at the paper napkin under her hand. She wasn't crying anymore, but the heaviness inside her hadn't left. "Do you ever feel like everyone expects you to be unbreakable?" asked. Keanu nodded slowly. "All the time. And what do you do?" "I let myself break, in private, with people I trust." Anna's voice grew softer. "What if you don't trust anyone?" "Then find someone who earns it," he said. "You don't have to trust everyone. Just one person is enough." She stared at him for a long moment. The sunlight outside their lunch tent filtered through the fabric and cast a golden glow around him. His face was calm but not guarded. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't trying to fix her. He was just there. Anna reached into her bag and pulled out the folded paper he gave her earlier. "This, too, is just weather," she read aloud. Keanu nodded. "Who gave this to you?" she asked. "Someone who saved me once," he replied. "Years ago, I was going through something dark, and they didn't try to drag me out. They just sat with me, like this." Anna folded the paper again and held it tightly. "You never talk about your past," she said. Keanu looked down for a moment, then met her eyes. "That's because the past doesn't define people," he said. What we do next does. Anna let those words sit in her heart. In the days that followed, Anna began to smile more, but only when Keanu was nearby. She didn't try to fake it anymore. She felt sad. She allowed herself to be quiet. If she needed space, she took it. And somehow, Keanu always knew when to step in and when to stay back. He became her quiet guardian. He never made a big gesture, never told anyone what happened. Never bragged about comforting her. He never even brought it up again. But the crew started to notice. Keanu's always with her now, someone whispered. He waits by her trailer between scenes. He brings her coffee before call time. He reads her script notes with her, but no one dared question it, because the change in Anna was undeniable. One morning, after a long night shoot, Anna arrived early. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The lot was quiet. She stepped out of her car and walked toward her trailer. Keanu was already there. He was sitting on the steps outside, holding 2 cups of tea, not coffee, not anything loud, just simple warm tea. He stood up as she approached and handed her one. Couldn't sleep, she asked. Didn't try, he said with a small smile. Figured you'd be early. Anna took the cup and sat down beside him. They sat in silence as the sky turned from gray to pale blue. And then, out of nowhere, Anna spoke. I'm scared, Keanu. He looked at her, patient as ever. Of what? That this peace will go away, she said. That it's temporary. That one day I'll wake up and all of it will come crashing back again. Keanu nodded. Maybe it will. Anna blinked. That wasn't the answer she expected, but he continued, when it does. I'll still be here. Anna's throat tightened. You mean that? She whispered. Every word, said. And that was the moment she started to believe him. Not just because of what he said, but because of everything he had done quietly, without asking for anything in return. He didn't rescue her with noise. He didn't save her with grand speeches. He stayed. And sometimes, that's the bravest, kindest thing anyone can do. A moment on set, no one forgot week, passed slowly, like warm honey dripping from a spoon. Everything on set moved as planned, but something deeper was shifting beneath the surface. Anna still showed up each day, still delivered her lines, still. He smiled when the cameras rolled, but now the smile had a soul behind it. A softness returned to her voice. Her posture was stronger, her presence was different, and everyone noticed. What they didn't know was that every day before filming, Keanu sat outside her trailer. Not to talk, not to fix, just to be there. He brought tea, sometimes a croissant. Once, it was a little book of poems. Anna laughed when she saw it. You really bring poetry to a film set? Keanu smiled. It helps more than you think. They'd sit quietly, reading lines or just breathing in the early morning air. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't. And somehow, those quiet moments did more for Anna than any therapy ever had. One afternoon, the scene was emotionally heavy. Anna's character was meant to break down raw and real in front of Keanu's character. The director gave notes. The crew got into position. Silence fell as the cameras rolled. Anna stood there, heart pounding, knowing the emotion had to be real. But she didn't need to fake it anymore. She let it come. Her voice cracked. Her eyes filled, and the pain in her expression wasn't just acting, it was release. Keanu stood across from her, and something in his eyes said, I see you. The director was stunned. He let the camera keep rolling long after the scene ended. No one dared to say cut. When it finally wrapped, the entire crew clapped, not politely, but slowly, powerfully, like they knew they had witnessed something unforgettable. Anna walked off set and went straight to her trailer. She didn't want praise, just needed a breath. Keanu didn't follow her right away. He stayed back, watching. Then something strange happened. One of the assistant directors approached him. Her name was Maya, and she had worked in the industry for years. Tough, sharp, and never one to sugarcoat. That was incredible. She said. Keanu nodded slightly. Maya looked toward Anna's trailer. You're good with her. Real good. He didn't say anything, she added. Most people would have walked away. Let her figure it out herself. Actors do that all the time. Keanu looked at her calmly. Sometimes the right thing isn't to walk away, he said. It's to wait. Maya blinked. She didn't expect that answer.
That!
But she didn't say more. Just gave a slow nod and walked off. Meanwhile, in her trailer, Anna was sitting on the floor. She wasn't crying. This time, she was just breathing, slowly, deeply, and for the first time in days, she felt something strange. Peace. Not complete peace, but a piece of it. Then there was a knock on her door. Tea. Keanu's voice came gently from outside. Anna smiled. Always, she said. Later that evening, Anna and Keanu walked together through the back of the studio lot. The sun was low, the sky painted in soft oranges and pinks. It was quiet, and the crew had mostly left. Anna carried the folded note in her pocket. This too is just weather, and she found herself touching it often, like it grounded her. I want to ask you something, she said as they walked. Keanu glanced over, his hands in his jacket pockets. Anything. Do you ever get afraid that people only care about the version of you that's famous? That they don't really know? The real you? Keanu was quiet for a moment. I used to, he said. But now, I care more about the version of me I show to people who need it. Anna looked confused. He explained, fame fades. Stories fade. But if I can be kind in the moment someone's breaking, then that's the version of me that matters most. Anna stopped walking. His words hit her heart like soft thunder. You're the realest person I've ever met in Hollywood, she said softly. Keanu smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. Then maybe Hollywood needs more real, he replied. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Anna was called to the producer's office. When she walked in, she expected it to be about script notes or scheduling instead. The producer looked serious. Quiet, Anna, he said. I just wanted to let you know. We've seen a change in you. In your work, in your energy. Anna tensed slightly. A good change, he added quickly. Something more powerful. She nodded slowly. I also want to thank you, he said, for not walking off the project. We know things have been difficult behind the scenes. Anna looked down. I almost did. You didn't, the producer said, and it shows. He paused. I don't know what brought you back, but whatever it is, keep it close. Anna left the office with her heart pounding. She knew what brought her back. His name was Keanu that night. They sat on the steps outside her trailer again. It had become a kind of ritual. Neither of them said much. Didn't have to. But tonight, Anna turned to him and asked something new. Can I ask about your past? She said gently. Keanu looked at the sky for a long moment, then nodded. Double quotes. Sure. Anna waited. After a few seconds, he said, I've lost a lot, people. Love moments I thought would last forever. His voice was steady, not cold, but settled. Like someone who had made peace with things most people couldn't even name. How did you survive it? Anna whispered. Keanu breathed deeply. By showing up for others, he said, because helping someone else stand reminds you that you can too. Anna's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, to thank him. To tell him he had become her anchor in a storm she didn't know she was drowning in, but instead, she leaned her head on his shoulder, and he let her. That quiet comfort between them was louder than any thank you could ever be, and just like that, a bond formed. Not one of romance, not of fame, but something deeper. A kindness that healed, a friendship that restored, and no one knew the depth of it. Not yet. One phone call changed everything. The sun rose soft and golden over the lot. The crew began arriving with quiet footsteps and sleepy eyes. Another long day of filming was ahead. But something about that morning felt different. The air was still. Heavy, like it was waiting for something to happen. Keanu was already on set. He always came early, but today he had a reason. Anna hadn't come out of her trailer yet. That wasn't unusual, not at first. Maybe she was resting or going over her script. Maybe she just needed a quiet start to the day, but Keanu knew better. He had learned to read silence like a second language. He walked to her trailer, knocked once, then waited. No answer, he knocked again. Still nothing. His hand moved to the door handle. Unlocked, he stepped inside gently. Anna was sitting at her table, a phone in her hand, her shoulders stiff. Her eyes weren't red from crying, not yet, but they were glassy, distant, like her mind was 1,000 miles away. "Anna," Keanu said softly. She looked up, blinked once. Then the tears came, quick and sudden. She covered her face with her hand, shaking her head as if trying to block something out. Keanu crossed the small space and knelt beside her. "What happened?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. She handed him the phone. The screen was still on. A message. "Dad in hospital. Not responding. Come home." Keanu read it, then gently set the phone down. "I have to go," Anna said, trying to stand, but her knees buckled slightly. "Have to leave. Right now. I can't think. I can't." Keanu caught her arm, steadying her. Not forcefully, just enough to anchor her. "Okay," he said calmly. "You're going home. I'll help you." Anna shook her head. "They'll hate me. The producers, the studio, everyone. I'm leaving in the middle of shooting. I'll get replaced." "This movie doesn't matter more than your father," Keanu said firmly. Anna froze. Those words cut through everything. Through her panic, through her guilt, through her fear of being seen as unprofessional, Keanu stood and picked up her bag, then handed it to her without rushing. "I'll call them. You go get dressed." Anna hesitated. "You don't have to do this." "I know," he said, just like before. "But I want to." 20 minutes later, Anna was in the back of a studio car, headed for the airport. Keanu stood at the gate watching the car disappear. Then he turned around and walked straight into the production office. The producer looked up, surprised to see him. "Keanu," he said, "we've got a full schedule today." "Anna's father is in the hospital," Keanu interrupted, his tone respectful but steady. "She's flying home." The producer blinked. "Wait, she left. Now. She didn't ask for permission. I told her to go." The producer looked stunned. "We can work around it," Keanu added. "You've got B-roll scenes without her. I'll do table reads, rehearse blocking, whatever it takes." The room fell silent, then the producer sighed, leaned back in his chair and muttered, "You'd better be right about this." Keanu gave a slight nod. "I am." For the next 3 days, the set ran without Anna, but it didn't fall apart, because Keanu made sure it didn't. He filled in where he could. He helped rewrite small scenes. He made the crew laugh when tensions got high. He stayed late and came early. But more than that, he made sure no one spoke a bad word about Anna. "She's dealing with something," he said, when someone tried to gossip. "Give her space." They did, because it was Keanu saying it. Meanwhile, Anna sat in a cold hospital hallway, her hands folded in her lap, her phone heavy in her hand. Her father was stable but unconscious. The doctors weren't sure if he'd wake up soon, or at all. She had been sitting for hours, thinking. Worrying and checking her phone, Keanu texted every morning, "Thinking of you. Be gentle with yourself. Don't forget to eat. I saved your spot on set. Come back when you're ready." A didn't reply at first, but on the 3rd night, she did. "Thank you for holding me together when I couldn't do it myself." He replied one word. "Always." When Anna returned 5 days later, she walked quietly onto set. Her eyes were tired. Her body moved slower, but she was there, and no one said anything. They just smiled, nodded, welcomed her back with quiet respect. When she stepped onto the stage, she saw Keanu standing under the lights, holding a fresh copy of the revised script. He walked to her, held it out, and said, "We waited." Anna's throat tightened. She took the script with trembling hands. "Thank you," whispered. "You don't have to say it again," he replied. "But I want to," she said. And then, in front of the entire crew, she reached out and hugged him. Not for the cameras, not for attention, but because in a world full of pressure, deadlines, and selfishness, Keanu had chosen to be human. After the shoot wrapped that day, Keanu found a small envelope on his chair in the green room. No name, no markings, just sealed neatly. He opened it. Inside was a note. It's written in Anna's careful handwriting. "You reminded me that kindness doesn't need a stage. It just needs a heart willing to listen. I hope one day I can be that for someone else." Anna, he folded the note slowly and tucked it into his wallet. Then he sat back, smiled to himself, and whispered under his breath, "You already are." She stood for someone else, just like he stood for Herat. It had been 3 weeks since Anna returned to set. The schedule was tight now. Days started earlier, ended later, and no one had time to waste. But despite the pressure, the mood on set felt lighter, warmer. Not because things got easier, but because people had seen what real kindness looked like, and that kindness was spreading. Anna changed. She still smiled, still joked with the crew, still gave powerful performances on camera. But now, there was a quiet strength in her, grounded calmness. She no longer felt like she had to hide her pain or wear a perfect mask. She had learned from Keanu how to sit in silence, how to offer space, how to simply be there for someone, and soon, her chance to do that came. It happened on a rainy afternoon during a rehearsal break. The younger costume assistant, a girl named Lily, accidentally knocked over a rack of expensive wardrobe pieces. The clothes fell into a puddle of dirty rainwater near the back of the studio. Everyone turned. A sharp voice snapped. "Shh. What are you doing?" The head wardrobe supervisor stormed over, face red, hands shaking. "Do you have any idea how much those dresses cost? Are you even paying attention?" Lily froze. She looked terrified. Her hands trembled as she tried to pick up the clothes. But her eyes were wet. Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to?" The supervisor barked. "This is a professional set. You're not here to play." People watched. No one said anything, except one person. Anna stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but clear. "Hey," she said gently. "It was an accident." The supervisor turned, surprised. Double quotes, "Anna, this isn't your department. It doesn't matter," Anna said softly. "She didn't do it on purpose, and yelling at her in front of everyone won't fix anything." Room fell silent. Lily stood frozen, still holding a damp dress in her hand, eyes wide. The supervisor opened his mouth to reply, but then glanced around. People were watching now, including Keanu, standing quietly in the corner. He said nothing, didn't move, but his eyes said everything. After a long pause, the supervisor huffed, then turned and walked away. Anna walked over to Lily and knelt beside her. "Hey," she said, "look at me." Lily looked up, wiping her tears. "You okay?" Anna asked. Lily nodded quickly, but her voice shook. "I thought I was going to be fired." Anna smiled gently. "You're not. You made a mistake. We all do." Keanu walked over quietly and picked up the last soaked dress. "I once spilled coffee on a $5,000 prop sword," he said casually. Lily blinked. Yep," he said, twice. Anna laughed and so did Lily. "Come on," Anna said. "Let's get these cleaned up." Later that day, Anna sat outside on a bench near the trailers, sipping warm tea. Keanu joined her, holding a thermos in his hands. "You did good," he said. Anna shrugged. "I just did what you'd do." Keanu looked at her. "No," he said. "You did what you chose. That matters." She turned to him, thoughtful. "You really think small things like that make a difference?" she asked. Keanu nodded. "They always do." She let that sink in. "Do you ever get tired of being the one who shows up for people?" she asked. He paused, thought carefully. Sometimes he admitted, "But I'd rather be tired from kindness than rested from regret." Anna stared at him, her chest tightening. She didn't reply. She just took a slow breath, leaned her head back, and looked at the clouds drifting across the sky. A few days later, the cast and crew wrapped their final scene in the desert. A wide, emotional shot at sunset. Anna and Keanu stood side by side as the director shouted, "Cut!" Everyone clapped. The project was almost finished. But something else was happening. Anna's phone buzzed in her jacket pocket. She pulled it out. Her eyes widened. A message from her mother. "He's awake. Your dad's awake." Her hands shook. "Keanu," she whispered. "He's awake." He didn't need to ask who. He just smiled and pulled her into a hug. See? He said. Whether Anna didn't hold back her tears this time, she let them fall. She didn't feel weak. She felt alive. The next morning, the entire cast gathered for a press photo shoot. Media outlets, photographers, interviews, bright lights and louder voices. Anna stood at the edge of the crowd. Adjusting her dress, nerves stirring in her chest, Keanu walked over dressed in his quiet black suit. Ready, he asked. For pictures, she said. Maybe. For being seen, he clarified. Anna blinked. She thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. Yes, she said, but only because. I know who I am now. Keanu smiled. And who's that? He asked. Someone who was broken, she said. But got rebuilt with kindness. Keanu nodded. The strongest kind. The camera flashes popped. They posed. They smiled. But behind every photo, behind every polished shot, was a story no one fully knew. A story of tears in a trailer, of a quiet man who didn't walk away, of a woman who found her strength not in applause, but in compassion, and of two people who learned that the greatest scenes aren't always filmed in front of a camera. Sometimes they happen in silence, with tea, with patience, with kindness. She stood on stage, but looked only at him. Premiere night arrived like a wave no one could stop. Cameras flashed on the red carpet. Fans stood behind metal rails, cheering, shouting names, waving posters. Everyone was dressed in shining, black suits and glittering dresses. It was loud, alive, full of energy. But for Anna, it felt strangely quiet. Not because the crowd wasn't loud. It was not. Because the press wasn't pushing in for questions, they were. But because deep inside her, she was calm, truly calm. Not because everything was perfect now, but because she had survived something that once felt impossible, and she wasn't alone. Keanu arrived later than most. Not to make an entrance, but simply because he preferred silence. He walked the carpet slowly, waving when needed, smiling gently, but always searching until his eyes found her. Anna, she stood under the golden lights in a long, soft blue dress, her hair gently curled over her shoulders. She wasn't trying to stand out, but somehow she did. When their eyes met, she smiled. Not the smile of an actress on camera, a real one, warm, deep, thankful. He nodded once, quietly, like he'd been waiting just to see that moment. Inside the theater, the lights dimmed. The crowd grew quiet. The movie began. Keanu sat 2 rows behind Anna, but for the first time, she didn't feel the pressure of the screen, didn't feel like she had to perform, even as her own face filled the cinema wall. Instead, she watched with quiet pride, remembered each scene where she'd stood, how she'd felt, what had been breaking inside her at the time, and how he had helped her heal without ever asking for anything in return. When the final scene played, the one where her character stood in silence under a soft rain, looking up at the sky, Anna's eyes filled again, because the emotions on her face in that shot weren't just acting, they were real, and they had been carried there, step by step, by kindness. The credits rolled, applause erupted. People stood, clapped, shouted. Anna stood with them, but as the crowd turned toward the exit and the noise filled the air again, she didn't move. She turned around, looked for him. Keanu stood up slowly, gathering his coat, ready to leave quietly like always. But Anna walked straight to him. Wait, she said. Touching his arm, he turned. You can't disappear tonight, she said softly. He tilted his head. Why not? Because they need to see the person who saved the scene before it ever reached the camera. He gave her that small, warm smile. You saved yourself, Anna. No, she said, shaking her head gently. You waited with me. That saved me. An hour later, they stood on stage together. The director had pulled them both up for a surprise thank you speech. The room was filled with reporters, cast, producers, and executives. Flashing cameras, loud claps. Shiny praise. Anna stepped to the mic first. Everyone expected the usual words. how great the cast was. Wonderful the script. It's how lucky she felt to be part of it. But she said something else. Her voice was clear, steady. I want to thank someone who's not just a co-star, she began, looking out over the crowd, but someone who reminded me what humanity looks like when cameras are off. People shifted in their seats. Keanu didn't move. Anna looked at him. I was in a dark place, she said, not because of this movie, but because life got heavy. Too heavy, and I thought I had to carry it alone. The room fell silent, she continued, and one person didn't try to take that weight from me. He just sat beside it, day after day. People turned to look at Keanu now. He looked down, shy like he always did when attention came his way. He never asked for credit, Anna said. Never told anyone what he did. But I want you all to know, this film was finished because of him. Keanu shook his head slightly, humble as ever. But she finished anyway. His name is Keanu Reeves. And I hope someday I can give someone the piece he gave me. The room stood. Everyone clapped, but Anna wasn't looking at them. She was looking at him, and he, for once, allowed himself to feel it. Months past the film, won awards, interviews, followed, photos. Red carpets, people asked Anna over and over, what changed in you? She always gave the same answer. Someone showed me that healing doesn't need noise, just presence. They asked, was it love? She smiled. Yes, but not the kind you write in scripts, the kind you live. Keanu and Anna never made headlines. As a couple, they didn't need to. They remained close. Deeply so. They traveled together sometimes, supported each other's projects, laughed over tea and red lines in quiet corners. But what mattered most, what truly defined them, was a simple, unforgettable truth, that a man once found a woman crying in her trailer, and instead of walking away, he stayed quietly, kindly, completely, and by doing nothing loud, he changed everything.